Hi guys, I hope you're good since last video. So this time we're gonna be going through Kubernetes and how to access to the applications, how to provide access to the external world using Kong, Kubernetes Gateway API. So that's the name of the service that we're gonna use. So we go in the documentation, Gateway API. It's a role-oriented gateway. So HTTP root, gateway, and the class. So they're all linked. And behind the roots, you're gonna get your application. We're gonna slowly do step by step and see different components. So here the client, pass through the gateway, the roots, and behind there's the service. Here's a better diagram with different roles and responsibilities. Gateway class, gateway, TLS root. But we're not going to use TLS root, we're just going to use gateway class, gateway, and HTTP root to have access to the application. After, we can go to the implementations reference, and there's a long list, different providers, they call them gateway controller implementation status. And we're gonna use, we said Kong, but just to have an overview here, there's some alpha, beta, the GA ones are the stable ones, the one that's gonna last, we are sure of it. So Asha Proxy, there's the Kubernetes in Google, there's the Nginx one. We will just go for the Kong one. Kong is in what it says here. Kong is an open source API gateway built for hybrid and multi-cloud environment. And we're gonna go through this documentation just to deploy it and see the different use cases, how we can use it. So here is the architecture. Let's start with it straight away. So we've seen diagrams. Let's just keep going into the diagrams. The user goes, try to access the application. There's a load balancer here. Load balancer provides access through the routes, which references the services. So this reference of services, and behind each service, there's applications. That's how the user is going to be able to use the path to access to that. So Kubernetes, we have the controller node and two worker nodes. That's our configuration. The API here with the control manager, the etcd, and the scheduler. So from the controller node, there's the kubelets, kube proxy, and the container runtimes, the default namespace, and the Kong namespace. That's going to be our configuration. We will have here the gateway class with the controller name. It's like a DNS name for the controller. And the gateway will be referencing this gateway class. And the routes are going to be referencing the gateway load balancer. Okay. So that's for the architecture. It's been quick. Gateway API installation. So we can install it from the repository directly, but I've stored this in a file that I already have. I call it Kong Gateway API install first. So that's the first file, just an overview of what is inside of it. So there's a lot of different configurations. But this is just to set up the CDRs, so we need to install that to prepare the architecture. And here we have the second install, which is the gateway class that I showed you, and the gateway which is going to be referencing that gateway class. So the name of the gateway class is Kong, gateway class, name is Kong. And we have the controller name here, you see, kind of DNS name. And the gateway class name, Kong, which is this one here, is referencing it. Okay, so it's the name is proxy on port 80, and it's an HTTP protocol. So let's use our own file and put the F here. So one is deployed, the other one I need to do it again because it wasn't instant. Wasn't ready yet for it, so now it's ready. Now we can install the second file. I'm just going to get rid of the first one, which is done. Okay, now we got it. So the architecture is ready now to receive, to have those pods deployed. So Kong is not yet deployed. It's just the architecture, the CDRs, and the gateway class, and the gateway. So you see here I can't grep anything that says Kong. So try it a second time, doesn't work, you see, because there is no resources yet. So here are the resources present in it. Just the default namespace with Nginx deployed already. We have the kube system, Calico and everything. We have the services for Nginx. Okay. And we have also the down there, we have deployment and the replica sets. That's the deployment. And for the replicas, I just use one replica of each. No need to overload the cluster, it's just a demo. And there's nothing, no namespace. Kong. Deploy Kong gateway API, so you need Helm to be installed already. So we're just gonna get the repository on updated with Helm and install it here. So this installation is also gonna create the namespace. So this is done. So don't look at the timestamps because I didn't do everything on the same day. I've been cutting and just making this video up. So kubectl get gateway classes and we have it deployed is true. Same for the gateways. I'm gonna use the command that I used before, trying to grep. You see now we got resources deployed, pod services, deployments, and replica sets. So those are the replica sets. One gateway controller and the gateway. And here same for the deployments. So that was in the long file with all the configurations. That was giving those IPs now, the CDRs, setting up. And after the Helm help us to deploy this. And this is the load balancer, no route matches, because we didn't create any routes yet, so it can't access to any application. And here we have the gateway manager on port 8002. So you have also this access if you want to have a web UI. So you can see it once at least, but we're not gonna use it. Just gonna be working on the terminal. So HTTP routes setup. Let's set up the routes. So here is the file with the HTTP routes. And this one is going to be referencing the gateway, if you remember the architecture. And behind it, there'll be all the applications. So the gateway here, it's going to be reference. That's the name, which is Kong. That's the parent ref. So the parent and the backend services match a different path. Here the prefix is going to be Nginx 1. I'm going to do the same for the Nginx 2, 3, and those are here, and I will be just typing here /Nginx 1 or 2, 3 to access the application. For the moment, no root matches with those values because we haven't deployed yet this configuration file. I'm just explaining it first. Nginx 1, Nginx 2, same services, it's all on port 80, the default port for Nginx. I'm going to be serving different HTML pages. I'll be customizing it later on in this video, but I'm going to fast forward that part. Let's deploy this configuration file. How did I call it? Nginx gateway route. Yes. So now it's on. Can I do this? Yes. HTTP route. We got it. And now you see we got Nginx. That's the 2, and that's the 3, but I didn't customize the pages, so they all look the same. So add a config map with custom HTML and volumes. So that's how I'm gonna be customizing those deployments. But I'm gonna fast forward this part. Alright. So in the description you can still go and join the Grass project. That's you're gonna be sharing your bandwidth connection and having some points. We don't know if they're gonna get any crypto coin yet, but still. Okay, let's go back to the video. The fast forward part is past. We have this config map. We have for Nginx 1 is gonna be a red message having this HTML page. And all the deployment is going to be the same for the other ones. I had some troubles with indentations of volumes down there, but I could make it work at the end. So red Creditizens, this is the volume that we're going to mount into the default Nginx HTML folder. And this is going to be referencing the config map, which has the HTML page, the new one. So let's deploy them all together. Nginx 1, Nginx 2, and Nginx 3. So we will have those custom pages having each a different color. So you'll be able just to see how you can serve different parts of your applications or different applications to your users. Here, let's use the private mode so we don't get any cache. Creditizens blue, Kubernetes, that's the Nginx 1. No, what did I do? That's the Nginx 2. Let's do the 1. The 1 is red. And let's do the 3, which is the green one. Okay, so we get access to the applications. We're having a break now. Please like and subscribe and share with them. Let's keep going. Conk plugin, rate limiting. So this is part of the interesting thing that you can do. You can set rate limits on connections to those applications. So this can prevent any malicious activity, and also having several connections at the same time to the application by setting a limit per user and having a grace period. So here the grace period is going to be 3 minutes. Just changing it. It was 5 minutes initially. And that's kind of a policy. So Kong plugin, the policy, the config is local, and the plugin is called, it's a rate limiting plugin. So for the metadata name, you can put the name that you want, but I didn't change the rest. Just change the the duration, 3 minutes. So we're going to be applying this and using curl after to see how it works. I mean, not curl, using a command. This is good. Okay. That's deployed. So it should be working straight away. Won't get hours. No. Conk plugins. Yes, here it is. This annotation needs to be added on the services. So here it's going to be done on Nginx 1. And you get this annotation referencing this rate limiting plugin. So we got our 3 Nginx services. And we can describe the one just to make sure that the annotation has been correctly recorded. So here we got the annotation, as you can see. And just let's check on another one. You see Nginx 2 doesn't have any annotation. It's status none. So we got this plugin now targeting Nginx 1. And you see here, trying to reach this application by doing several requests in a short time frame. And here it's okay for Nginx 2. So this means that you need to set up this. So Nginx 4 doesn't exist. So 4.4. You need to set up this, otherwise you can see it's always 200. So DDoS attacks will be able to affect your server, your cluster, I mean. So Nginx 1, you see, API rate limit exceeded. So there'll be this grace period of 3 minutes while we can access the other ones. And that's how you can apply rate limits. It's suggested to do it while you're using this gateway API on Kubernetes. Now, the conk plugin, the key auth for authentication. So you can also set authentication. And here we're going to use the example of a simple authentication. Set up an authentication service first. So I'm going to call it Authentication Service Gateway API. Little typo, but it's okay. So that's the boilerplate from the documentation. We're going to just put the name that we want. Let's specify for which service that we're going to be having an authentication setup. So as you can see, the other ones, you just type in the browser the service name and you get the access to it. But for this one, you want to get the access to it, you need to be authenticated. On that one, we're going to use a curl command just to demonstrate. So first, we deploy the service. So the authentication is here now. And we annotate the service, Nginx 2. So we will have both rate limiting and also the authentication. Remember, before Nginx 2 we didn't have any annotation, while here you can see there's those two. So Nginx 1, it's okay. Nginx 3, it's okay. But Nginx 2 now, no API key found. We don't have the access to it. So create secret for authentication. So we need to set up a secret. So this is a kind of a password or a key, if you want to call it a key. Secret authentication Nginx 2 service gateway API. Very descriptive of what it is. The name of it, Creditizens Nginx 2, maybe. Yes. Auth. So that will be the name of it. This name is important because we will need to reference it on the next component. On the key, which is the password, will be metaverse. And the credential is a type of key auth. Kong key auth. Let's deploy this. So we get this secret in the cluster. Alright, and now we need something to reference it, which is, we'll talk about it later. I'll just describe it. Creditizens Nginx 2 auth. Okay, so it's in the cluster. It's all good, it's here. Non-bytes. Very small password. And now we need to set up a consumer for the authentication. So the username is Creditizens. The credential is referencing that secret that we just uploaded. That we applied to the cluster. And the name of this consumer is Creditizens user auth consumer. The Ingress class is Kong, so it's referencing the gateway. Okay, so Creditizens Nginx 2 auth. So that's what we have referenced here in this file. So I just need to change this. It's not key, it's Nginx 2. Okay, so now we are sure that it's gonna work. There won't be any errors. kubectl apply f, the name of the file. What's happened? Now there's an error. So what it is? Error passing consumer on the YAML, converting YAML to JSON. Line 2. Line 1. Yes. Indentation. So that's when you copy paste from the documentation. You can get some troubles like that. Yes, here is it's okay. This is fine now. Good, this is applied to the cluster. Created. Metaverse, we put in the header. And you can see here, Nginx 2, when we call it, we get the blue. And when we get rid of the header, so we can't access to it. Same as the HTML page that we had before. Okay. So you've seen here the authentication, while the other services is still available. You can see here they're still available. Nginx 2 is not. So this was an overview of the Gateway API on Kubernetes. So what you need to do when you're doing the authentication, just to do a little recap, because there were too many steps for this authentication. You need a secret. You need, before the secret, to activate the service. So authenticate service Gateway API. We activated the service is ready. After we created secret, we have the password in the cluster. And after we have a consumer. The consumer, it's going to be referencing that secret. Okay? So that's how you do the authentication. So that's the component, the minimum that you need to set up when you do a Gateway API. And here the username is a Kong cluster unique username, but it's not, you can change it, there's no trouble. Username doesn't count. This is what we're going to see in the next video. We're going to stay into the Kubernetes subject and see Metal LB, Metal Load Balancer, which is another way, another concept to provide access to your services using a load balancer. Okay, so this is just the documentation that we're going to be using for that. So be ready for that next video, the installation and everything. Alright, I hope that you liked this video, and see you next time.